Fermenting chicken feeds or serving your chickens with fermented feeds can make or mar their production. So I liken fermented feeds to some over-the-counter medications that you get and they instruct you not to drive. They say don't drive after taking this. Or some that they will tell you, okay, it's not for pregnant women or it's not for lactating women. While a lot of people will just jump at fermented feeds and tell you, okay, it increases the bulk of the feed, it reduces your cost of feeding, and it adds nutrients to your feed, I am going to tell you the do's and don'ts of fermented feeds. Is it okay for day-old chicks? Is it okay for broilers? Is it okay for layers? And many more are the things we're going to be considering in this video. So if you think you want this content so much, just click the like button as we proceed. Thank you. Alright, so not long ago I made a video on the best way to ensure that while producing your fermented feed for your chickens, you are not losing any nutrients in the process. Whoa. That is what we call palatable. Yeah. So if you have not seen the video, you want to make sure that you watch it after this video. Alright, so but beyond losing nutrients while producing your fermented feeds, there are other ways that you can be undoing your chickens when using fermented feeds. So let's start by talking about the do's and don'ts of fermented feeds. Alright, so the number one is it okay for day-old chicks? Is fermented feeds okay for day-old chicks? Of course, even though more research is needed in the use of fermented feeds for chickens, it has been established that fermented feeds can actually be used for chickens. However, I don't encourage that you give your day-old chicks just fermented feeds. You can alternate, you can introduce them to fermented feeds, just a little bit of it from time to time, but don't feed them basically fermented feeds from day one. I don't think all that bulk of good bacteria in quotes is necessary for your day-olds. So you just want to introduce them to the culture by giving them from time to time, say twice a week or so. That's okay for them, and just about 20% of their feed intake on a daily basis is okay. Yeah, that means if you are giving them 10 kg of feeds in a day, if you give just 2 kg of fermented feeds and then 8 kg of a dry mash or pellet or crumble, that's okay for them. It will make sure that their guts get used to fermented feed right from their early stage. All right, so is fermented feed also good for broilers? Yeah, it is actually excellent for broilers. Fermented feeds are excellent for broilers as long as you use it in the right type of feeder. I also mentioned the kind of feeder that is appropriate for fermented feeds in that video about how to produce your fermented feed. So fermented feed might just be made for broilers. Am I correct? Oh, okay. Wait until I talk about what it does for layers before you actually make your decision on that, because let's keep that. All right, so for broilers, it is actually very good for them. It helps them to grow real fast. It saves on your feed cost. You know, they eat a lot of feed and you want to save as much as possible. All right, so for broilers from say 2 weeks of age, you can decide to give them as much fermented feed as possible. I would encourage giving them about 80% fermented feeds and just 20% dry mash or pellets. Yeah, they don't need crumble at that age, so dry mash or pellets will be okay for them. All right, so before we talk about what it does for layers, do well to like this video and hit that subscribe button if you are yet to subscribe to the channel. Also, because of so many benefits, you want to make sure that you click the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my uploads. All right, let's talk about layers. Is fermented feeds okay for layers? Is it okay for layers? Based on my personal research, I found that while the benefits of fermented feeds for layers are enormous, I mean, it makes their egg big, and it makes their shell okay. But then, if your layers are not used to fermented feeds before they start laying, I tell you, it's going to crash their production by at least 70%. I've seen it crash production of layers by up to 80%. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you introduce fermented feeds to your layers while in their growing stage, while in their grower stage, because if you wait until they start laying and giving you lots of eggs before you introduce them to fermented feeds, it's going to be detrimental to your profit. Yeah, they may pick up after a while, you know, they are just trying to get used to the new feed. They may pick up after a while, but no farmer is actually willing to wait for 1 week, 2 weeks before the production returns to normal. All right, so the best thing is, if you're going to be giving fermented feeds to your layers, start early. Yeah, start while they are in their chick stage or grower stage. Let them get used to it. All right, so this is DIY Agric, your #1 animal scientist and your poultry success partner. So if you want to know the best way to produce your own fermented feed in order to reserve all nutrients and even probably add more to it, see you in the next video.